You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस फिर
पता नहीं, ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे लाइफ की समर वेकेशंस खत्म हो गई है।
डू यू मिस मी?
शिट काव्या, गीता मैम का लंच आवर खत्म हो गया, मैं तुझे करता हूँ। हाँ
So hello and welcome to another episode of OffScreen. I'm Nand Kumar, and that was a little glimpse from Netflix's Little Things starring Mithila Palkar and Dhruv Sehgal. So on OffScreen, we usually speak to people who work behind the scenes, but this time we have someone who dabbles in both worlds, that is off-screen and on-screen. And that's Dhruv Sehgal, the writer and one of the protagonists of Little Things. Hi Dhruv.
Hi यार, hello.
What's up?
कुछ नहीं, just a day full of interviews, but this is a podcast, so I've taken off my jacket and my glasses, and now I think I can be nice and relaxed. Yeah, much freer.
Okay, just like before we begin, like statutory warning, I sound really bad because I have a cold, to you and the people listening to this.
Okay, I don't mind your I don't mind the way you sound.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you this first, that some writers and filmmakers have said that inspiration for them when they write comes from like angst or like things that they want to change. But for you, from what I've seen in Little Things, it clearly comes from the mundane and stuff that happens every day. Would that be right?
Yeah, a lot of it comes from there. A lot of it comes from the shows that I have liked and the books that I've read and the films that I've seen and loved. And in any case, I was never able to associate myself with your big budget Bollywood films. I was always working on documentaries or watching films which was sort of, for a lack of better word, indie. And most of these films dealt with the everyday struggle of an individual. So for me, that was far more interesting than showing these dudes fighting to get married or figuring out how to elope.
Tragedy was not like...
Sorry?
I mean, tragedy was like an extreme.
हाँ यार, tragedy भी नहीं, मैं कह रहा हूँ anything which is high intensity, for me that intensity lies in the daily life and how we function from morning to day and day in, day out. For me, that's far more interesting than that one day where shit changes. Because everything changes every day a little bit, I guess.
Like there's this whole saying that art comes from this place of like pining and like...
Yeah, so...
like you... what is that thing? Like that it say you get like great art or something?
Yeah,
right?
but a lot of this show is actually... a lot of Little Things is about a healthy relationship. And I don't want to say that I was a part of unhealthy relationships, but I was part of relationships where I made mistakes and my partners made mistakes, and I was always like, there must be a better way of approaching this whole thing. I should figure out a better way for myself to approach intimacy and human connection, and even the simple quality of listening in a better and a more profound way. And all of that resulted in this show, So there is that level of tragedy. Of course, it's not tragedy on the lines of global tragedies, but it's just like how do you love, and how do you behave yourself in a relationship, and what is healthy actually in a relationship. So yeah, I don't think there should be a method to any sort of creation. The method should exist for the creator, but it can't be applied universally to everyone. Rule 1, rule 2, rule 3. Writing in general has some
different
structures and all.
Inspire different people.
Of course. Yeah.
So you've spoken about the panda analogy, which actually came from a conversation you had with Mithila, or like a random conversation, right? So like, are you like constantly observing people?
Yeah, man. It's very exhausting. I'm constantly observing people, and
Are you that person who's always looking at people randomly? No, even I do that, but...
I am, but I always have this perpetual grumpy, pissed off face, so people don't look at me, which gives them the license, which gives me the license to look at them. But yeah, I'm always observing, and I'm overtly sensitive towards my environment and towards the people around me, even if I don't give a f*** about them. But I still find them interesting as, again, to put it very stupidly, as creatures who are going through something or the other. But yeah, I'm always observing. It's kind of insane because you're always having these weird conversations with yourself.
Tomorrow a friend could be like, hey, I was in, like, that's me. Or like, I could look at something and you'd be like, oh, he's probably like looked at me and gone back and written this in his
that happens
diary.
quite a few times. But it doesn't happen as often as people think it does. But my friends think that's all I do. Like I poach my entire, like I've made a career out of their stories. So what these guys have started doing is they tell me the beginning, middle, end of the story, or almost the end, but just when they're about to reach the climax, this guy, it happened in the second season of Little Things. This guy tells me that how he met this girl in school and he was madly in love with her, and he figured out wo kahan tuition jati hai, and typical Delhi story. This is not inspiring. This is not to inspire anyone. This is a bad example of it. So please guys have some awareness while listening to it. वो कहता है वो ट्यूशन, मुझे पता चला वो हाँ ट्यूशन जाती, तो मैंने सोचा आज उसका पीछा करता हूँ. तो मैं पीछा करते करते गया, वो घर गई, तो मैंने सोचा उसके बाप को बोलता हूँ कि मुझे तेरी बेटी पसंद है. तो जैसे मैं घंटी बजाने लगा, and then he stops and I look at him and then he's like,
I'm not going to tell you this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to just use this.
Exactly. Then I'm like, क्या हुआ आगे? तो नहीं तू चुरा लेगा. I'm like, नहीं चुराऊंगा, तू साले चुरा लेगा. So I still don't know how that story ends. उसने घंटी बजाई या नहीं बजाई, पता नहीं.
So that's what you do all the time.
No, not all.
But this is obviously, I'm kidding, but like this is not, I mean, this is subconscious, right? Like you're just like...
Yeah, it's a part of my being now. But it's not just with people, it's just with literally everything around me. It's with the food that is in front of me, it's when I'm traveling, it's at airports, it's at, you know, when you're waiting. Like today morning, we went to this building in Lower Parel. It had a massive lift, जहाँ पे तुम गाड़ी fit कर सकते हो, some FM. And there was this guy whose entire job is to just shut and open that lift. It's not that button wala lift. So I'm like, what is this, you know?
Yeah. Did you always want to write? Like, have you been writing since you were a kid?
No, of course not. I was just really interested in stories. I used to really like listening to radio. And I used to work on documentaries when I came to Bombay, and the director told me that the only way to be an actor is to generate your own material, is to write and direct, and you have the aptitude, so you should go for that, you should pursue that. Didn't really take that too seriously, but then I joined the company called Pocket Aces, which has filter copy dice, and because it was a startup, so everyone was doing everything. And that's when I got the opportunity to write, and just give me the license to be alone and get paid for it, and tell my stories and actually interact with the world and try to understand how people react to things, which was kind of nice.
So there's this thing that I noticed about the show, that why isn't there enough expression of physical intimacy?
Yeah.
Like, was there a reason for that?
Yeah, one of the main reasons for that, without trying to sound intellectual, we saw a lot of Iranian cinema in college because I did media and communications from Symbiosis. And in Iranian cinema,
They have so many restrictions.
there are so many restrictions. You can't show a gun. You can't show a kiss. Even to show somebody holding hands is a big deal there. But yet the films are full of emotions and full of love. And because I was trying to show love in a different form, so we just thought that maybe it's not even important. Maybe how do you make a romantic show without physical intimacy? Some people will hate me for saying this, but I also, which is explored in this season, but in my mind, I had it since the first day of writing this show, that the love that they share is also extremely familial because they live alone. They live away from parents. They look at each other as family. They seek that, you know. So maybe they're not always having sex, but maybe they're always cuddling. Maybe they're talking to each other as family members. So for me, that was also a different side of relationship, which was very nice.
I mean, it's also interesting because, you know, without naming, there are shows and apps that are using sex to sell what they have. And you're very consciously trying to not do that, which is what I found interesting. Maybe because like 10 years ago, this would have been like, but today because we're more comfortable with seeing people like intimate on screen, even though I don't know what you feel about this, but whenever I see Indian films and intimacy, it just looks awkward for some reason.
Yeah, it does. Some films do it very well. I remember Hazaro did it beautifully well in that.
Hazaro Khwahish Aisi?
Yeah, वो जो classroom में जाके make out करते हैं ना, I was like, the dream. No, but that's a beautiful song and beautifully done.
But so that was the only reason why. I mean, you wanted to work with that restriction of knowing that this was not essential.
Yeah, and also the themes that we were dealing with in each and every episode didn't require that kiss. It didn't require them to have sex. It didn't require them to just be naked and like chilling. It didn't require her to wear my shirt and sit on the kitchen ka slab and eating cereals.
Those are quite
and
predictable visuals.
Yeah, they're very predictable. A lot of the show is about things which are not predictable, but at the same time not uncommon, like living in, but not making a big deal out of it. I know a lot of people who are like that. I'm like that. I live with my partner. My parents have never made a big deal out of it. Her parents have never made a big deal out of it. The objective of the show was to to have a relationship where there is freedom of expression. That was the purpose of the first objective of the show. So we just thought that maybe physical thing wasn't really that required. But having said that, there are scenes where we are kissing and we are holding hands and she's putting her head on my thing.
Of course, yeah. So what's your writing process like? Like, do you have hacks? Do you write in the morning? Do you write in the night? Do you need coffee? Like, are there like some feng shui things?
It depends how I'm writing. So first 2 seasons I wrote alone. This season I wrote in a writer's room. I mean, we operated from a writer's room. Yes, a writer's room is good, but when I have to write the screenplay, you obviously have to write it by yourself. I don't know what the process is. I listen to some artists. I listen to this guy called Trent Reznor. He's given the music for Social Network, Before the Floods.
So this plays in the background when you're writing?
Plays in the background. I listen to Radiohead ka instrumental songs. I definitely have coffee. I have to, because I have anxiety, so I have to time my coffee now. Earlier, when I was younger, I would like to say that I would have 4 coffees in a day and I would not feel. But now if I have 2 coffees in a day, and I'm gone, dude.
The caffeine just...
Yeah. My heart starts beating fast, so I have to just be very sensible about the whole approach. But I write, I see what the show is about. I see what this particular episode is about. There needs to be some sort of resonance in that episode and what I'm writing and what I feel. Then I put down the pointers, 10 pointers. First minute this happened, second minute this happened, which is just technically called the beats. And then you just elaborate that.
But you pen down everything, write down, I mean, all the way to each dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Like everything. So like when you go on set, like it's all there and you just execute it.
Yeah.
Or do you change stuff when you're doing it?
No, we change. ऊपर नीचे. If the director is like, ये क्या 4 page का dialogue लिख दिया तूने सोफे में बैठ के, I'm not going to shoot it like this. I'm going to give some movement. Maybe you'll have to go to the bathroom and then you come out and she's waiting for you. And then as you walk, she's going to walk behind you. Then
those are changes he makes because he's looking at it visually.
Yeah. काफी हद तक वो बोलता है, but I'm also learning that.
Does that like I don't know, as a writer, does it make you feel bad that your stuff is like here going to be...
नहीं यार, because it's important for writers to also kind of understand the art of submission. कि मैंने दे दिया, now it's yours. Now you have to make it. And I may feel terrible about it if it's not good. But I also need to acknowledge the fact that it may just become better than what I've ever imagined. So it works both ways, I think. It's the part of the process. Can't really say much about it.
But are you willing to trust somebody? Because
totally.
I mean, it's your baby, right? Like these are your experiences. And
but
do you expect someone else to kind of understand that?
But the show is so personal, that it's personal for everyone. So the director also looks at this
vis-a-vis his own life.
Yeah, and he likes to bring his. अगर वो नहीं करेगा तो फिर क्यों बनाएगा? You know. He's also doing out of love, so you got to respect that.
Because you're acting also in this. You're not just...
Exactly. So I need to be like, chal bhaiya, tu ye kar. Let me learn my lines and let me just take this process forward of acting, which is another art and craft required.
So you're an accidental actor, and it's quite an interesting story because I've read about it, but I think you should say how it happened.
Oh. Well, first of all, I would like to say that I used to act a lot in college and I came to Bombay to be an actor. But I always did things... Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I always did things which I thought were interesting at that particular time.
Because I remember reading this... Sorry, I cut you off. But I remember reading this interview of yours where... This is even before I was a journalist or anything. I was just like a kid in college, and where you had said that you were very uncomfortable with the photographer taking your picture because you were like, I'm a writer. I don't feel like an actor, so yeah.
Well, that was my first interview with Hindustan Times.
Yeah. This was so long back. Yeah, which is why I'm surprised you said you wanted to become an actor.
Yeah, but when a photographer tells me, do something cute, that anyway just puts anyone off. At least it puts someone like me off. So anyway, I came to be an actor, but I was working on a documentary which I thought was fascinating to me. And I think it is. So I was doing everything but acting. What happened with Little Things was, we wrote these 2 videos which went viral about boyfriends and girlfriends, and we were not able to get an actor. And because it was a startup, so everyone was doing everything. So the other writer was like, bhai, tu hi kar le.
You were not able to get an actor?
Yeah. I know. You're not able to get an actor. Now that you've said it, it sounds weird in my head, but actually we were not able to get an actor. So we were running short on time because we had booked everything. So the co-writer was like, bhai, tu hi kar le. I was like, main kar leta hu. And then everything just, whatever.
But were you like apprehensive for doing that? Because acting requires a different skill set, right?
I wasn't apprehensive while doing those 2 videos because I was like,
Not much, I'd say.
not much. Maza aayega, kar lete hain. Free food and all that. And plus, you're working with friends and I mean, at that time I didn't take things that seriously. Also, now I sometimes feel ke bhai ye na, it's a different mindset, yaar. And I keep on saying that people make fun of actors because it's an easy profession to dumb down. But if you're an actor, you really have to think about how you look, how you eat, who you meet, how much you talk, what's your voice sounding like, how much you exercise, what's your presentation. It's so important. So it's a different mindset. So whenever I'm given some scripts, I just feel that maybe I'm not prepared for it right now. Or maybe I've not worked.
Aside of little things?
Yeah. Or even sometimes with little things, when I'm acting or wherever, like when I'm given the sides for the next day and I'm like, man, this is a complex emotion which was interesting for me to write. But if I have to portray this on screen, I need to kind of really dig in deep. So it's difficult and people think it's flashy and all, but it requires effort. But it's also a lot of fun at the same time.
Also because you've written this character, right? So for you...
I have, but I still want to know all my lines to the T. I want to know all of Mithila's lines also to the T. I want to go on set with this feeling of that I know what I will do today. As opposed to, I have no idea, guys. And I have to give a 4-page scene and I have no idea what to do. So it's just nice to prepare. Like the analogy that I give everyone is like, she's like Sachin. She has this weird flair about herself. And I'm like Dravid. And I actually appreciate that. I appreciate that.
A hard worker, yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate the difference. Because together they just make something which is nicer. As opposed to, of course, individually also will probably work. But yeah. Also before the start of every season of Little Things, I do a 3-4 day workshop with some acting teacher or the other. Just because I've been writing continuously for 6 months, I just need to not think. So what he teaches me or what he goes through is just how to listen. Just that. So it's just 4 days of you just being extremely attentive towards your co-actor and towards your surrounding. And just that.
Is it hard to do this slice of life kind of acting? Is that...
I think it is hard, man. And I also think it's hard to create something like this. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant about it.
Because a lot of actors have actually said this is harder than doing something more dramatic.
It is actually very hard. Because the fear is that it may seem boring. And it may seem lifeless. Just like the show in its most basic element is nothing but a sofa and 2 people sitting on it. And it's the easiest show to dumb down. But to still find layers and to still try and make it more engaging, to still try and have some resonance, to still have some sort of inertia being carried, I think those are difficult things. And similarly for actors, I think it's very difficult.
Do you think that people are like want to see something like this now? Because when I was watching the show and I've seen a little bit of I've seen 3-4 episodes of the 3rd season, there are like just moments where you guys are just quiet and they're like silences and there's just that, and that's what a web series allows you, right? You can show that like this person is just sitting and doing nothing because that's what we actually do in life. There are moments where we just don't do anything. And do you think that people are more open to this kind of narrative
Well,
style?
I hope they are, because I have a great time writing it and I have a great time shooting it. Like, I hope people who've seen the show are listening to this. But there's a bit when Mithila is talking and I just pause and I dig something out and I just like clean her nose and I'm like, sorry, I was getting distracted.
Yeah, I've seen that.
To me, that is, I'm not saying it's great or beautiful, but to me that is so nice and it's so humbling to see a camera capturing a normal human emotion like that. It's almost, and ethnographic. You're just seeing a human being, his human self on camera. So I don't know whether it's difficult or not, but I feel it's refreshing to do it. It's refreshing to just be yourself. A lot of times what also happens between me and Mithila is like, we shoot and we don't even look at the monitor. And then once I look at the monitor and I see that my hair is standing from this one side, it looks very bad. But I'm like, it looks fine, it's okay. Let it be.
But I mean, that's cool because, like people struggle with this, right? Because initially when you're seeing yourself, you are looking at the way you look. And that's
it's difficult to kind of not do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
For me also, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, initially you struggled with that.
Yeah,
but
still do. But
you are?
Yeah, but then you also understand, like, I remember telling the directors, after finishing a very important scene and time crunch tha, and I go to the director, I'm like, yeah, but मेरे यहाँ से बाल खड़े हैं. And the director just looks at me, भाई मैं यहाँ तेरे बाल देखने के लिए बैठा हुआ हूँ. And I said, yeah, man. देखो उसका काम नहीं है. So I have to that's the art of submission. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, but that's also refreshing of the times now because so many actors must have probably been like, nahi, I want to look good. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, but I think if the directors and the actors or someone on the crew, if someone in the crew would have said that I didn't get the right feels in this particular scene, then we would have
Then
redone
it makes sense,
But for
yeah.
एक कि तेरे बाल खड़े हो तू पागल सा लग रहा है तो
Yeah, no biggie.
no biggie in that sense.
Like you were talking about how it's difficult for you to like sometimes look at roles. Like you think you could do a space that's like completely different from Little Things? Have you got an opportunity like that?
Yeah, I would like to say, if I'm allowed to it, I auditioned for the lead role of White Tiger.
Arvind
Adiga's. I didn't get it, obviously. Otherwise, I would not be here. But I just had
No, you'd still be doing Little Things. And
True. But I had the opportunity to audition for it, and I was on cloud 9. Even though I knew कि शायद ये नहीं होने वाला. Because I just had such a great time putting myself in the shoes of someone who I would never ever kind of totally relate to, but at least I attempted to. Yeah, so I think it's possible. It's all about how much are you ready to I understand the basics of acting. I understand how to make it sound natural. But how do you make it sound natural when you're playing a role like Guy
is not
Tonde
natural,
from
dude.
Sacred
Yeah.
Games is, I think, difficult. But I think for someone who's invested, not
yeah,
just me.
Dhruv as Guy Tonde from Sacred Games.
Yeah, can you imagine?
People would pay to watch.
Yeah. But I think it's possible. Not just for me, but again, it's your investment in your craft.
How do you react to the attention?
Don't really react.
No?
No, I don't really react. For me, my mental space is the most sacred part of my life, besides my relationship and my relationships with my parents and to some extent my country. So I don't let anything interfere with that. And I also tell people that I think you are as famous as you think you are in your head. You know, I could be Dhruv Sehgal, but if I think I'm Salman Khan, but if I think I'm Ranbir Kapoor, then it won't work for me. But if I'm Dhruv Sehgal and I just look at myself, another guy who just wants to go and have a carrot cake and just leave, then I'm just that, you know. So, anyway, of course, people approach me and of course they ask me for photos, and my mother has taught
Also
me
like
to.
social media, yeah. It's quadruple now, right? Like the
Yeah,
amount
man,
people are interested in you is so much more because
Yeah, and-
they have access to you.
And it's business now. It's work. You get paid depending on your following,
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
followers and everything. So it does.
You've also done a couple of those, right? Like those brand.
Of course I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's all
Yeah, of course I have. Did one yesterday. Did one day before yesterday.
part and parcel.
Yeah, I mean, can't really say no because you just feel. I mean, I've said no to so many of them, but sometimes I feel, yeah, man, what if I don't make money after 5 years from now? Will I look back and say that
I should.
somebody was just asking me to promote their juice by saying something funny for like 30 seconds, and I said no to that because I thought it was too important.
It's realistic, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if someone just came onto you on the road, it's still a bit awkward for you.
Nahin.
It's not awkward.
Now it's not, because my mother taught me a lesson, and it happened when I was with her. We were in CP and we were shopping for shoes, and these 4 girls came and they took a photo with me and they left, and my mother's like, you were not even nice enough to ask them their name and who are they and what do they do. When somebody approaches you with a smile, you have to smile and genuinely ask them who are they, you know. So that much decency or understanding I've got now. So when
you exercise that now.
Yeah, so when I do that, it just generally becomes very normal, you know. And I ask something really silly. और क्या खाया आज तुमने?
And the other person's like,
Yeah, ये तो my जैसा है.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on OffScreen.
Thank you, man. I
Thank
really
you. That
love
was
doing
fun.
podcasts. Yeah, this
Thank
was
you.
fun.
This was good fun. That's all for today. And if you like this podcast, do check out more on Apple, Google Podcast, Savan, Spotify, or any other platform we're on right now. And do subscribe to the platform of your choice to keep listening. If you have any feedback, please write to me on nandkumar.ramohan@thequint.com. Have a great week and see you next time.